Hey Fansiders, Mike Straw here, and I came across recently a 3D rendering, a pretty good 3D rendering of Microsoft's new Xbox One console. And the rendering is found on sketchfab.com. I'll post a link below the video for you to go check it out yourself. You can do exactly what I'm doing and check everything out of this very detailed rendering of the hardware for Microsoft's new console that will be released later this year. What we're going to do today is actually look at specifics and the details inside the aesthetics of Microsoft's new console here that was unveiled about 10 days ago on May 21st. So we'll start with the controller, arguably the part of the console that the users will have most contact with. And one of the many questions that has been posed is about the glowing Xbox logo on the top of the controller, and that is in fact going to be a button similar to the guide button on the current Xbox 360 controller. It will allow users to bring up their dashboard exactly the same way it does. It's not a physical 3D button. It's going to be more of a touchscreen style button that's just going to light up when the controller's on, and you'll be able to hit it and bring up your guide. The two new buttons on the controller replace the start and back button. As you can see, there is on the left the view button, and on the right the menu. We'll start with the view button, and it's going to allow you reportedly to access, without having to go back to the dashboard, access all your recently opened apps and games to bounce through one another without having to go back to the dashboard and find it and load it. If it's a top 5 recently opened app, I believe it will allow you to just open up that right where you left off. The menu button is exactly what it says. It's a menu button. Whatever program, app, or game you're in, you hit it, it'll bring up the content menu for that specific program. So that's the new features on the controller. Plus, on the back, let's see if we can get under here. Yes, we can. On the back, you see from a distance, zoom in a little bit, there's no more bulky back of the controller. It still takes 2 AA batteries, I believe, but now the battery pack is inside instead of being bulky and getting in the way of the hands of the user on the back of the controller. So that's a really nice feature. So let's move on to the console itself. Now, the console is made to be standing horizontally. It will not stand vertically. It will not support being stood vertically. So, as I mentioned this, it's all based on the horizontal aspect. And when you look right at the front, it's a very clean face. There's not much going on. There's a slot loading disk drive, which is fantastic that they finally have, so you don't have to worry about your disk tray breaking or not closing or not opening. And then they have the illuminated Xbox logo like that's on the controller and on the Kinect above, as you can see. It's unsure if that's going to be a standalone power button or if it's just there to look pretty or what. We'll know soon enough, possibly at E3. So that's the front. It's a nice glossy finish, nice matte or gloss. I'm not sure exactly if it's going to be strictly a matte finish, but on the left you see the first auxiliary port, and it is a USB, and it's on the left-hand side, and the positioning of it makes one wonder, makes me assume that it will be primarily for an external accessory that has yet to be announced or revealed. That might be still a year or so away, but that's where the first USB port is. And unlike the 360, there are none on the front, as we just discussed. On the back, we'll start from left to right on the back of this console, and there's not too much going on, and it's very clean. And the biggest aspect of this, in my opinion, that I like the most is no more external power brick. The power supply is inside, so the only thing that's plugging from the console to the wall is the power cord itself. There's no big brick which takes up space, and it bugged a lot of Xbox users, and me being one of them. It was annoying because it got in the way. You see the input, HDMI input and output, and in between the two HDMI ports is the optical audio output for your surround sound system. You move on, there's 2 USB ports. Simple enough, just like how they ran in on the 360. It's unsure if they're going to release a wired controller for the 360, or for the Xbox One, I'm sorry, or whether or not it's going to be strictly wireless. Maybe they'll release a charger, kind of like the plug-and-play that the 360 has now, but that remains to be seen. Again, maybe we'll get something at E3 or later over the summer. Then you see a weird, funky-looking input, which is probably the connection for the Kinect. And remember, the Kinect will have to be plugged in at all times in order for the console to be used. Then you have, on the far right, the Ethernet input, allow you wired connection. The Xbox will have built-in wireless, like the Xbox Slim, 360 Slim, to allow Wi-Fi play. And then there's this funky-looking thing next to the Ethernet port that I'm unsure exactly what it is. It's probably a high-def audio port, but for now I'm just going to call it the Game & Watch port, because the design of the middle imprint kind of looks like the head of Mr. Game & Watch, for those who are familiar with the old Nintendo character. So, now we move on. A big issue on the 360 and the 360 Slim was overheating. There was external fans, or third-party fans, that were released to help cool the console down. And it seems Microsoft really took that into consideration with the design of this console, because there is no shortage of ventilation. Starting at the back, now this is where one of the smallest vents are on the console, or is on the console, and it only takes about a quarter of the back, but it should allow enough to cool that area. Plus, it's not like it makes a big difference when you look at the grand scheme of things. On the right-hand side, if you're looking at it from the front, half of the right side is a vent. And on the left, the entire left side, which means there's likely a fan in there alongside this vent, is also a vent. And then you got the top. The top of the console is half vent, which means there will be a fan right underneath this vent. And that will be, on this right-hand side is where you can expect to see all the processors, all the microchips, the memory, everything powering the machine. So, it seems that there will be no shortage of good ventilation, which hopefully will stem overheating issues for this console throughout this generation. Moving on to the Kinect Center itself, you can see there's no shortage of ventilation on this either. What's assuming to be ventilation, again, we're not sure exactly if it is going to be a vent or if it's just there for design on the Kinect. But on the top there's a slim bar, on the back there's a circle vent that'll likely be a fan due to the size or the shape. On the right hand side there's a full grate vent, and on the left hand side there is a full grate vent that is out of view right now because of the shadow. But as you can see, there's no shortage of ventilation. On the Kinect itself, there's again on the right hand side an Xbox logo. Unsure if it's going to be a power button or if it's going to be just a standalone logo. We'll find out soon enough. The left hand side is the 1080p high def camera. That is, from all the demo videos that are out there online, the Kinect seems to be just fantastic as far as body detection and movement and everything. Then there's a soundbar underneath, or what appears to be a soundbar, that will likely house the microphone, and it might also possibly be a speaker. I haven't seen anything as to whether or not it is a speaker or not where the Kinect will actually talk to you, but that's my assumption on everything. But as you can see, it's a beautiful looking console. Now that Microsoft has designed, at least from the outer aesthetics part of it, we're not sure what the inside looks like. That'll be nice if we can get an inside rendering one of these days. But it'll be interesting to see just what the PS4 looks like once, hopefully that will be shown off at E3. We'll actually get our first official look from Sony at the PS4. But for now, if you want to test out this rendering, it's free to everybody. I will post a link to it in below under the video, and you can test it out and check out all the things. I mean, you can zoom in and out. It's a pretty cool, awesomely done 3D rendering of Microsoft's Xbox One console. So, for the latest on the Xbox One, the PS4, and everything E3, which starts in 2 weeks, make sure you stay tuned to fansided.com.